Hi, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. First, I'd like to apologize for the late start, but I just want to thank you guys all for coming on today. So today's session is called Guide to Internship, and it's a co-partnership between the Jamaica Medical Student Association and the Jamaica Medical Doctors Association. So today we have a panel of doctors lined up to speak with us about the internship experience. As we all know, in just about 5 months' time, we'll be beginning. As we all know, in just about 5 months' time, we'll be ending our medical school journey and starting our journey as medical doctors. But before we begin, I would like to lay down some ground rules. We have a document that we've prepared that if you want to add your questions to, you are free to do so. I'm going to share the link in the chat now. If you wish, there will be a question and answer segment after each speaker presents, and at the end, there will be a general question and answer section where you can ask any question you want about the internship experience and what anything you need to know going forward. So without further delay and ado, I now give the floor over to Dr. Anton Small, who will be bringing us opening words from the Jamaica Medical Doctors Association. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Small. I'm currently a senior house officer in the Department of Pathology at the University Hospital. And I'd like to welcome all of you to this joint session between JAMSA and the JMDA. First, I'd like to thank JAMSA for hosting this event. It's very important to be prepared especially going into a new field. I'd like to also thank JMDA for taking time to provide doctors to help provide some bit of guidance to the doctors, the new upcoming doctors in a couple of months. So first, I just want to say a couple words about JMDA. The Doctors Advocacy Group. They advocate for doctors from MO1 to MO3. So that will be from internship, basically up until you reach a resident. Make sure you can check them on their website. It's jmda.org.jm. Once you graduate, you could register with them. You could go fill out the form. You have a monthly due to pay. It's $1,000 unless I've been paying the wrong thing. And once there's an issue that comes up, you can approach them and they can assist you, whether it's individual as a group. They host a conference every year, as well as they give you updates on conference and different medical related issues that are going on within Jamaica, within the region at any point in time. They also provide discounts and services for people that they're partnered with. So you can always go online and check their website to see who they're partnered with, and you can get various discounts. So thank you all for coming. I hope you all have learned a lot from this talk. And as you prepare to go into the next chapter of your life of being full doctors, I wish you all the best and all the best in your upcoming exams. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Small, for that opening statement. At this point, I'd like to recognize members of the JMDA executive. We have Dr. Colleen Campbell, who is currently the internship rep at the JMDA, and Dr. Brian Kazara, who is currently the secretary. So without further ado, if you have any questions to direct to the JMDA, now is the time to ask. You can use your raise hand feature and with identification before. Just leave the floor open for 10 more seconds. Okay, so without further ado.
Sorry, Omar.
Yeah.
Omar, 1 second, sorry. I'm Dr. Kazar, Secretary for the JMDA. I'd just like to also bring to attention the presence of Dr. Shim, who's actually our Senior House Officer representative, who also played an instrumental role in putting things together. So I just want to say I'm happy to see her, and I'm happy that we were able to assist JAMSA in putting together this event.
Thank you, Dr. Kazara. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome our first speaker from the Northeastern Regional Health Authority, Dr. Byron Kinlock, who is currently working at the Anna Bay Hospital. Dr. Kinlock, the floor is over to you now.
So yes, good evening, everyone. So can everybody hear me?
We can.
Everyone can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. So I'm Dr. Brighton Kinlock. I'm currently an intern at the Anna Bay Hospital in the Northeast Regional Health Authority. So just a rundown as to what it is like to work in NERA. So first of all, as everyone knows, we started internship basically in a pandemic. These were unprecedented times and still is unprecedented times. And just some pointers as to what it is like to be doing internship in a pandemic. If I could use a word to describe the process, it would be adjustments. With the advent of this pandemic, COVID-19, where you have to be masked for extended hours, you have to treat every patient as a positive case. It can be distressing and it does have a psychological impact. But what has helped me is that I have maintained a positive outlook. And there are times when even you will encounter patients who are positive, and because of that, you will have to be quarantined, as I was, and that also affects your finances, because as you know, or if you don't know, the main part of a doctor's income is really the duties that you do, the overtime. And so if you're on quarantine, you cannot do overtime. So that's something that is new with regards to doing internship in the pandemic and being a doctor in general in a pandemic. Also, if you live with family, it's also concerning because there might be times when you would have to isolate yourselves from your family if you have had close contact or if you indeed become positive. So those are just some things that I found a bit difficult with regards to the pandemic. Also, very early in our internship, about 2-3 weeks, we lost Dr. Morris. I was actually on the very same team with him, and we were good friends from university. So that was a rough period, but we are pressing on still. And yeah, also the transition from med school to NERA, to working in NERA. In med school, you are a bit sheltered, but as you go out into the world of work, when you are now basically in charge of someone's health directly, it brings a greater sense of responsibility with it. Also, especially where I work, you might not necessarily have the level of supervision that you normally have as a student. Also, because interns, especially at Anna Bay, I know at different hospitals it's different, but in NERA, I can say across the board, each patient is seen by the intern first, unless there are too much admissions that he can't manage, and the resident would chip in and help you with the admissions. So a lot is demanded of you. Each intern sees a patient. You're like the first line person on the team. And that places a great responsibility on you. And as an intern, especially it depends on the service. Because where I work in Anata Bay, in pediatrics, you see the admission, but then thereafter the resident takes over the management of the patient. While in obstetrics and gynecology, you are basically making the plan for the patient, and then you consult with your resident and you would take it from there. So there is more responsibility, and especially obstetrics and gynecology at Anata Bay, it is, I won't lie, it's like you are a resident, but it's good because you get a lot of clinical exposure and it improves your clinical acumen. And I'm now on internal medicine, just started about 2 weeks ago, and it's pretty much the same. So especially in neuro, you get a lot of exposure as per se when compared to other regions, because there's not necessarily as much staff, especially at Anata Bay, that residents are able to see all the admissions as in some other regions. So that's something that is peculiar, if I may say, to NERA. I'm not sure. And also, some seniors are helpful, some are not helpful. So sometimes it might be that you are there for extended periods, managing a whole ward or 2 wards by yourself. So that's one thing, but it has been a good experience thus far, and it helps you to be a more rounded physician in the end. Also, I know everyone is interested in the money side of things. With regards to pay, it ranges from between 280,000 per month to about, well, you can go up to 400,000 a month based on how many duties you do, and that's based on how many interns are on each firm. And especially in the pandemic, when especially and another intern, because I had this experience recently in December, and we had 3 interns on gynecology, obstetrics and gynecology, and one tested positive, and it was just 2 of us. And we had to cover the month of December. Doing 1 in 2s straight. So I ended up doing 15 duties. For the first 6 months, you're not taxed. So that figure that I quoted, when come January, the first 6 months of your internship, that figure will decrease, because then they will start taking income tax. But generally, between 280 and 350 thereabouts. If you really push it and go for more duties, then you're able to make up to 400. And with regards to duties, so each weekdays are better in my estimation, because the ward work in the day is shared among the team. The whole team is there every day from Monday to Friday, but weekends it's just those who are on call will work on weekends. So on Saturday and Sunday, in pediatrics and obstetrics and gynecology and surgery, it's just you, intern, and a resident. And most times you'll be managing 2 wards. On medicine is a bit heavier, so you have more staff. So you have an intern, a SHO, and a resident. And of course, you have consultant on call for each service. So that's basically an overview. And there will be sleepless nights. I guess the studying prepares us for that. Luckily, I'm one of them who is lucky. My duties are not normally heavy, but if you're not as lucky as me, you might not get to sleep when you're on call for up to 32 hours. So yes, that's basically it. If there are any further questions, I am willing and open to answer.
Hi. So guys, if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hands and ask. I've noticed some questions in the chat. I'm not sure if you addressed them before, but someone was asking what's the average number of duty nights you usually do per month? What the average number?
Anywhere between, most times on each firm, it will be 3 interns, sometimes 4 if you're lucky. And so you do anywhere between 8 and 10 per month. In NERA, for Annato Bay Hospital, for St. Anne's Bay Hospital, it's a much bigger facility, and my understanding is that you have 2 interns on call every night for each service, on the most part. Because St. Anne's Bay has a greater patient load, so you have 2 interns on call, and of course you will have more supervision in regards to seniors as well at St. Anne's Bay. So Annato Bay is good. The teaching is good on obstetrics and gynecology, pediatrics, medicine. I haven't done surgery, so I can't speak for them, but especially obstetrics. You want to do obstetrics and be well-rounded, Annato Bay is a good place.
Okay,
quite a heavy patient. Yes.
Another question that we have is, are the doctor's quarters and other lodging available at Annato Bay for rent? And if so, how affordable is it?
Currently, the doctor's quarters is not available for rent. So you would have to get your own housing. Luckily, I am from this part of the island, so I didn't have to pay rent per se. But there is housing available close to the hostel. There's a housing scheme. And other areas in close proximity, but not on the hostel compound. There is a doctor's quarters, but that's mostly for the doctors on call. Since the passing of Dr. Morris, I know there have been talks for them to remodel or rebuild a doctor's quarters so that doctors would have a place to stay. And they were thinking of naming it in his memory. But as of now, there are no accommodations on the compound, the hostel compound.
Thank you. And I have not seen any more questions.
But for, but for St. Anne's Bay, there is accommodation. But I wouldn't be able to give the exact details. But I know there is accommodation on the compound at St. Anne's Bay.
Okay, thank you. I see no more questions in the chat. So the last question I'm going to ask is, are we entitled to days off? And if so, how many days do we get?
As far as I know, I know currently with the pandemic, a lot of regions have adapted what I would call a day off system, but Annato Bay, you are not off during the weekdays. If you're not working on the weekend, you will be off, but we don't really get days off per se. As I say, we don't have as much staff as per se St. Anne's Bay. So yeah, I know maybe in Kingston that's the arrangement, but As of now, not in mirror.
Okay. I see J Brown has her hand up. So J Brown, you can go
Yes.
ahead and ask your question.
Oh, hello, good night. The values for the salary that you were given, was that
Yes.
pre-tax or after?
All right. So for the first 6 months of your internship, if you start in July, you will not be taxed. Well, you will not pay income tax. You still pay education tax and some other little taxes, which are not much. And as you know, the first 2 months, you're not paid for duties for the first 2 months. So like you won't get paid for your July duties until about September, and then you are paid August in October and so forth. But come January or whenever you pass the 1.5 million threshold, whichever comes first, you will start paying income tax. But those values that I gave is for the first 6 months. But if you still want to make that amount of money after you start getting in tax for income tax, you'll have to work more duties. But generally, the pay range will still be between 280 thereabout is 350.
280 after the tax, correct?
Yeah.
With the given duties.
Yeah, you
without
could use that as a good marker, about 280 thereabout.
All right.
Doing about 9-10 duties a month.
9-10 duties, okay.
Thank you, J Brown. At this point, I would like to make notice that this meeting is exclusively for final years. I know that there are some fourth-year students in the group and there are some final year students in the waiting room. What I'll ask is for the fourth-year students to please leave the call. The information will be made available to you, however, at a later date, and so that we can give access to the final years who wish to come in. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kinlock, for your amazing presentation.
Yes, and just to add before I go, there's beautiful scenery on our side of the island, so that's a plus. If you want to go out on the weekends to the beach or to various attractions on this side of the island. Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Kinlock, for your amazing presentation. So guys, now we're moving on to the next regional health authority, which is the Southern Regional Health Authority. And from the Mandeville Regional Hospital, we have Dr. Jeffrey Latibudi to speak to us. So Dr. Jeffrey, the floor is now yours.
Good evening, everybody. So my name is Dr. Latibudi. I'm currently a SHO at Mandeville Regional Hospital. So I'm talking about the Southern Region Health Authority. It encompasses actually, so the Maypen Hospital and the smaller hospitals within that region, the Mandeville Regional Hospital and the Black River Hospital in St. Elizabeth, and smaller health facilities. As it relates to internship, the main hospitals that you would be included in are the Maypen Hospital and the Mandeville Regional Hospital. The reason why I mentioned all of these smaller hospitals or facilities is because you'll come to realize while working at Maypen and Mandeville Regional Hospital, being the larger hospitals in that region, the referrals will be sent for your care. And usually when they come from another place, it's not a good condition they're coming in. All that being said, as the name of the hospital, Mandeville Regional Hospital, even Maypen Hospital eventually refers patients possibly to Mandeville Regional Hospital for further management if it cannot be done at same. Now, as it's like for internship, as Dr. Kinlock explained well, there's a lot of experience to be gained from the process. Yes, to some extent, I agree that the staying up while preparing for exams does help to prepare you for the long nights that you'll have, but it does come with a lot of adjustment. Um, for some persons, I also know some persons aren't really into the staying up too late at nights. That is a major adjustment. Um, so on a whole, I can just, to lighten the idea of it all, between myself and my colleagues at Mandeville Regional and all my colleagues at Maypen during the last 2 years, I have not heard anyone truly say they hated or disliked their experience at these two hospitals. Now, as it relates to the work that you'll have to become accustomed to, as I'm sure Dr. Kinlock is currently experiencing, these hospitals that we tend to term country hospitals, a lot of them don't really have, I know he used the term resident, but a lot of the services don't have residents per se. It's a lot of medical officers. And what, if you've ever heard the phrase, see one, do one, teach one, it's a lot of that principle. A lot of cases, like he said, you'll get a lot of experience, but a lot of times you end up taking on a larger role than you may normally get at a hospital that has more staff. One experience I can definitely say at Mandeville Regional Hospital, though, like I said, you have a decent amount of support from your seniors during internship. If it is a case where there are things you don't understand, don't know how to do, they will come and assist you, especially on specialties like pediatrics. Babies are very fickle, so they try not to take too many risks. But especially with things like general surgery, internal medicine, once the medical officers see that you are capable and understanding, they will allow you to go ahead. You do a lot of procedures by yourself, unsupervised. Of course, this is, like I said, after they understand that you're capable. You're going to end up spending, as Dr. Kinlock says, dependent on how lucky you are. I can say during internship and even now, I am not the luckiest. I had many nights where I got little to no sleep. And yes, if it's a duty in the week, you have to get up and continue work the next day. And that is another adjustment that you'll have to make. You have to be able to understand to prioritize things. You'll have to be able to manage yourself. Remember that you're just one person. So even if all the patients are popping down one time, you are just one person. If certain things are beyond your control, I can gladly say you're able to seek help. The medical officers are usually very open to helping. When I say helping, I don't necessarily mean with the procedures. If the procedure can wait, then you're probably on your own. In the case of more urgent situations, help is usually provided. As it relates to another adjustment that you have to be able to deal with in internship, I'm not sure of Dr. Kinlock's experience, but a lot of persons, you have to get used to the idea of death. I don't mean to be very cold. I don't mean to be very heartless when I say this, but there's a lot of times where there are patients that through your efforts, though valiant it may be, a lot of patients still do pass. And I know the idea of death can be traumatic to some persons. Once again, like I said, it's a lot of adjustment. I can't speak for the patient load for Maypen Hospital too well. I can say the patient load for Mandeville Regional Hospital is, okay, one, it depends on the rotation you're on. Internal medicine usually has a higher patient load because a majority of the patients end up on internal medicine. General surgery, pediatrics, and obstetrics and gynecology can be very seasonal. Another thing with obstetrics and gynecology and pediatrics, these are possibly some of the most stressful rotations that you can go through. One, because like I said, babies are very fickle. That death topic I mentioned earlier, especially the newborns, they tend to like to sit on that line. 1 minute they're fine, the next minute you're called that they're not breathing. And you have to be able to act fast, act calmly, and adjust to the situation. In terms of pay and duty load, so it depends on the amount of persons that are currently being hired at the time. When I started internship, because each firm has, well, medicine has 3 persons on call per night, and the other specialties have 2. When I started internship, we had a total of 20 interns for the entire hospital, split up equally amongst the rotations. Because of that, you were working in 1 in 2 or 1 in 3, getting, like Dr. Kinlock said, about 12 to 15 duties dependent on, where you are. When the new January set of interns had joined, the number of interns increased, and as the number of interns increase, the number of duties decreases. I believe the current rotations, they're still sitting at around somewhere between 8 to 10 per month. As it relates to living circumstances, so from what I'm hearing in terms of my colleagues at MAPEN, there are certain factors that they put into play. So there are some living quarters at the hospital. There isn't enough for all the interns, and I'm not sure exactly the cost for rent of that exactly. There are also some other facilities that they have prepared for the doctors to stay as well, that are fairly close. I was told it's still a distance that you may require a taxi to help take you to there if you don't drive, as well as other facilities that they have for housing that are actually further away. These are offered to more persons who have access to a vehicle. In terms of Mandeville Regional, so when you go to do internship at Mandeville Regional Hospital, you are required to live on the doctor's quarters at the hospital. Now, one part of your income, I'm not sure Dr. Kinlock's living situation, one part of your income includes traveling. If you live at doctor's quarters, so for example, the doctor's quarters at MAPEN, or even the doctor's quarters at Mandeville Regional, you do not get paid for traveling. So sadly, like I said, if you work at Mandeville, you're required to live at doctor's quarters. That means no traveling pay. In terms of that living on the living on doctor's quarters at Mandeville, I can say the rent is fairly cheap. It was ranging somewhere between, when I started internship, about 2,700 to probably like 3,000, 3,500 most. And I'm not saying you're going to be living in the most exquisite home. You're given the basic necessities: a fridge, a stove, a kitchen, and beds. You may have a couch or 2 in the room. You may have a proper dining table versus a fold-out table. But it's honestly adequate and comfortable for the most part. You don't pay for light and water. Well, no, correction, sorry. You don't pay for water. When you go there, you have to set up your own electricity account and bill with JPS. They will give you the documents for you to take to JPS, and JPS will connect your light. Now, just a heads up for persons moving in. It depends on how soon the person who lived in the room prior to you had disconnected the light, and how soon you can get it sorted out. So there's a possibility the first night or 2, the room may have no electricity. until, like I said, you get the chance to sort it out. Another thing is, once again, also, for example, things like internet, you'd have to set that up yourself. For the most part, the internship experience, I believe, in these facilities is very good. Another thing that you're going to have to take with you, you're going to have to learn to work well with others. That can either make you or break you during internship. Like I said, the workload can become hectic. If you work well together, you'll be able to make it through quite well as well, in my opinion. And other than that, the other thing that you may really need to know, for the obstetrics and gynecology rotation at Mandeville Regional Hospital, you are required to stay on the ward for the entire period of the duty. Of course, you might get a break to go shower and change, but in a nutshell, that's pretty much is it. Other than that, like I said, you do get a lot of hands-on experience. In general surgery, more than others, you'll definitely get a lot of hands-on experience. Certain things that you wouldn't do at other hospitals as an intern, you'll be definitely getting the chance to do that. Certain debridement, certain amputations, putting in chest tubes, these procedures, once, like I said, the medical officers see that you're capable, you will be out there doing them and getting the experience for yourself. In the operating theater, the consultants may give you an opportunity to get some hands-on experience as well. So I personally think this is a very good region to come to. You'll learn a lot, you'll have a good time. You may be tired and stressed out at sometimes, but honestly, I think it's worth it in this region. Of course, every region has their problems in terms of certain management issues, certain organization problems, but for the most part, it's a good region. Are there any questions?
Question. You said that you're required to stay at the living quarters that they provide?
Mm-hmm.
So the persons that I know that don't stay there, they would not be getting, that they stay at their personal home or wherever, they would not be getting the travel stipend?
So, when I say required, as in required, you're going to be given assigned a room. You're going to be given the keys for the room. Whether you stay there is really your choice. They don't really follow you around to know if you go home to that room or not. But because you're assigned a room, you won't be given traveling.
Okay, understood.
In some cases, the benefit of staying there exists, like especially things like pediatrics and obstetrics, where you'll have to, if they tell you there's a flat baby, you're going to have to be available within 5 minutes or less. It might be harder to do that from home. So, any other questions?
Yeah, one more question. You say we're required, as in, you know, we have to take the key and they'll definitely be taking the money for the living arrangement at the quarter. Is that a case? It's a must?
So, like I said, you'll be assigned a room. Whether you collect the key, like I said, they're not going to force you, but the cost is taken out of your pay monthly, whether you stay there or not. Because, like I said, it is a quote-unquote requirement for Mandeville Regional.
Wow, that information, you know, I don't think anybody would have known that, you know, it's a must that we stay, it's a must that we have them remove that amount of money, whether or not we decide to stay at the hospital quarter.
One other thing that I should have noted. So I personally am a Kingstonian. It is a big, you know, moving out of your Kingston home, living in another parish. And you may also have that, you know, eventually I want to go home to town, go home to where I'm from. kind of thing ever so often, feel free to do so, but there are going to be times when you're post-call. You may have had a rough duty, especially if you're driving. Be very careful on the drive to the highway, back into town. It's a it's Jamaica. People drive bad. And when you're very tired, you're not driving at your full capabilities. I personally have done it. I've taken the chance and I have seen how dangerous it can be.
Thank you, Doc. I see Naomi has her hand raised. Naomi.
Hi, good night, everyone. I just wanted to know, is there like a set figure that they take out for travel?
Take out?
You said that if, right, well, pay you, yeah.
Oh, wow. You see, because I never got traveling as an intern, I wouldn't be able to quote that price for you. It's on the contract. I'm not sure if, sorry?
Sorry, Jeffrey, traveling for interns is, I think, roughly 22,500, thereabout in that region before taxes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thanks, Shim. All right, and I guess if there are no more questions.
I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat. However, I'm not sure if you will be able to speak to it. It's regarding MAPEN. They were asking if you know what the workload compared to UB and KPH was like. It's like.
All right, so the workload down, I can't define it exactly at one point in time. It really depends. In comparison to UE, now UE, from my understanding, has a larger portion of interns, and a larger staff in terms of seniors, as they also do the DM program down there. So I believe the workload at UE would be less than that of, say, MAPEN Hospital. I would not be able to truly give you a comparison between MAPEN and KPH, because I know KPH does also bear a very heavy workload. So, and being it said, the person is going on the KPH cycle, do their pediatric rotation at Bustamante Children's Hospital. And this is just my personal opinion. I'm sorry, pediatrics at Bustamante Hospital is possibly the heaviest pediatric area, because they have, I guess, a very, very large and never-ending cycle of patients. And they also get patients from peripheral hospitals around the country. So, and as it relates to that question of whether the rent is quoted per week or per month, it's per month. And it's not really like you get per se get like a bill at the end of the month to say this is your rent, this is how much you have to pay. It's taken out of your salary before you get it. So you'll see a little on your pay slips, which I do advise everybody collect. When you get your duty roster, make sure you tabulate, have an idea of what you should be paid, because it happens, as far as I understand, in multiple regions. You may realize that duty or two may not show up on your pay slips. So be very wary of your pay slips. But yes, you may see on the pay slip a little line that says Scotiabank with a sum, say $2,900, $3,000. That is your rent. Yes, that's, yeah, in a nutshell, that.
Thank you so much again, Dr. Lapi, today. So now, guys, we're going to move on to the third health region, which is the Western Health Region. And now we welcome Dr. Riley from Sablama Hospital.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So can you hear me?
Yes, Dr. Ali, we can hear you.
Okay. So I'm a Kingstonian, and I went to the Western Regional Health Authority, working in particular at the Savannah Lamar Public General Hospital, which is the smaller hospital to Cornwall Regional. First of all, when going, it's a bit of an adjustment. I can tell you, I've been so jealous of Dr. Latiba with that $3,000 payment for your rent. So at SAV, you have, so housing is available at the doctor's quarters, which is right next door. You basically walk through a fence and you're there. There's a gate. When you come down through the doctor's lounge, we also have a doctor's lounge on the compound. So if you live off the compound and you're doing your duty, you do have somewhere to sleep and shower and everything. So we are charged. So we have 1 bedrooms and studios, which is just the 1 room. You are given the basic necessities as in Mandeville Regional. You get a stove, a fridge, and a bed. You will get 1 item of furniture apart from the bed. So you either get a table or a dresser. They're all old, but you know, they give you. So apparently the rent was raised for my year. Oh, sorry, I have completed my internship. I started in January last year. So recently they changed it. So now we are charged $15,000 if you get the studio, and apparently you pay $20,000 if you get the 1 bedroom. In addition to that, we also pay the water bill, which is $3,000 for everybody. So the 15,000 and the 3,000 or the 20,000, depending, comes directly from your salary before you're paid. You will see that noted on your pay slips. You have to connect your own lights and internet. There's also no internet at the hospital, so you have to get mobile data for yourself. We don't have it like at UE. And you're expected to always have credit on your phone, first of all. So you need to have data, you need to have credit, because when you're doing your duties, so apart from pediatrics, who is usually lucky enough, depending on how many interns they have on their firm or they're able to get from other firms, usually have 2 interns on call, 1 to cover the nursery and maternity and 1 to cover the ward and A&E. Because really and truly, if you are on a nursery call, you need to be nearby, because yes, flat babies are taken very seriously and you need to be there. So when you're doing a nursery call, you will be basically on the ward. All right. For the other rotations, gen surge, obstetrics, and medicine, during the week, you are the only intern at the hospital. And most of the times, you're the only doctor at the hospital. Your MOs or SHOs are not usually there. Only like when there's something like really, really wrong, like there's a huge emergency, depending on what rotation it is, you are not, there's no real coverage there from any senior. Pediatrics usually does have seniors there. So I think pediatrics was the only rotation that I was never really alone there for. So as I said, there's housing available and the doctor's lounge. You do have to ask for, so when you get assigned and everything, and you get information about your orientation, you just ask about housing if there's any available for you to get. It's pretty clean, it's decent, it's not anything luxurious. You can paint it and make it homely. Honestly, it's nice. I do have a lot of problem with any pests there. I guess, yeah, it's pretty clean, it's good. The rotations themselves, no. First, I have to say, you have to take the time for yourself, because it can be a lot. Remember to eat, take your naps, take your rest. If you get like a 10-minute or you have a half hour between when you have to do another procedure, and now go to sleep, get something to eat, do it, because you never know when you're going to have a rough night and you might be waiting to say, okay, well, later on I'm going to get a nap. Trust me, it can get crazy. Honestly, I had a really good internship experience here. I learned a lot. Some rotations obviously better than others. For obstetrics, you will be the only person there, and 11 o'clock in the night, you have like 5 patients walking in on the maternity ward. Everybody's an emergency. You're the only one there dealing with them. You have to, as I think Dr. Latiba said, learn to prioritize who is the most urgent. Always call your senior, notify them, and honestly, sometimes, sadly, I should say, you are left alone. Sometimes you're not getting through to your senior. All I can say is, to note things, record things, write things down. You call your senior if anything goes wrong. You called your senior, because a lot more responsibility than is really put on you than you really should have to deal with. As it relates to medicine, sometimes for that day you can have like 17, 18 referrals in one night. It can be a lot because you are the only intern, and depending on the senior that's on with you, you might not have a lot of help. They will see some during the day, but most of them that come in the night, you can be the only one dealing with them. In addition to covering both female medical ward, male medical, any patients you have on the surgical floor, obstetrics, so you're everywhere. Most of the times the seniors do help, I must say, with medicine, but it really depends on who you're on call with. What else is there? Sometimes for pediatrics, as I said, you always have a senior nearby. It's not as bad. Really and truly, for pediatrics, I think most of the work is during the day, because if a baby sneezes, you have to screen. I'm exaggerating, but we have to screen often for the babies. I think during the day we have a lot of work. Most of the nights, if you don't have a lot of babies, with jaundice, we have to do those serial bilirubin and stuff. You get some rest sometimes, but I feel like maternity ward, I don't know if it's just that Sav, but it's like a curse. Like, you will be okay, and for some reason you have to go to the maternity ward for one baby, and then as soon as you get there, every single baby that is born. So if you're there and there's like probably 6 deliveries in the time that you're there, every single baby that's born has to be reviewed by you for some reason. So it can get really, really hectic. Sometimes even though your duty ends at 8 o'clock, you still have stuff to do. If it's on a weekend where you get to go home if you're not on call the following day. Oh, and we don't double for duties in pediatrics. Well, that's what they used to, but if they don't have anybody else, they will still allow you to double. So it can get hectic. I was trying to remember because they already said a lot of the stuff that I was going to say. As it relates to duties, here, so apparently you're not able to, but here we're able to cover. So whichever rotation you've already done, you are able to cover duties for that rotation, even though you're on another rotation. So yes, your duties are based on the amount of interns that you have on your service. So unfortunately, in my year, they took more interns than they've ever taken. So we did have a lot less duties for some rotations, which, does apply your earning. Does affect your earning at the end of the month. But the thing is that you're able to take calls from other rotations. And so if you've done medicine and then you move on to surgery, you can do your surgery and your medicine calls. You're able to double, triple, as long as you have the stamina to do it. They don't have a problem with that. The only service that does have a problem with that is pediatrics. So if you are on O&G, already done peds, and you want to do a peds call, you can't do it if you did an O&G call the night before. But you can always do a peds call first and then do an O&G call afterwards. Nobody else cares about you doubling. You just have to know what you can do and know your limits. So really and truly, if you're not comfortable doing something, let your senior know. Like even on surgery, honestly, I hated my gen surg rotation, but if you're on surgery, they will have you do most of the things. If you're not comfortable amputating somebody's limb, you let them know, because you will be the only one there, and your seniors will not come unless you ask them to come, because they'll just think that is something simple and you can do it. If you're not comfortable putting in a chest tube, you're not comfortable doing a tap, you let them know so that they can come. Don't be afraid to call for help. Don't take up too much. If you feel like you're overwhelmed, take a breath, inform your senior, take care of yourself, ensure that you wear your mask. And if you're approaching a patient and the patient doesn't have their mask on, please ask them to put on their mask before you go and assist them and help. And even in the case of an arrest, you still have to remember your health comes first. Put on your PPEs. You don't have it, I mean, to be honest, and I'm not trying to be mean, the person has already arrested. What's the sense in you putting yourself at risk and this person is, you know? So do protect yourself. Take the time to care about your personal health. You feel like you're overwhelmed, ask them, I need a minute, I need some time. Can you please cover? And oh, another thing is not to suck up to the nurses, but build good relationships with the nurses. Because depending on how you deal with them, it can really help you on a rough night. Because there are some nurses who will call you, oh, the patient cough, oh, the patient vomit. I don't know, like they'll tell you some really trivial things they'll be calling you. This is like the 1 hour that you get to nap for this entire duty at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, and they will call you for the simplest of things. But really and truly, if you have a good relationship with the nurses, they will know, okay, well, this patient needs access, but it's not something urgent, or this patient needs something. I'll wait on her to come back at the 5 o'clock or the 6 o'clock and tell her at that time, depending on who is on. If there's anything else you want to know, let me know, because I was just trying not to go over stuff that they've already covered. Oh, and yes, it's the same applies. So if you do take the housing at doctor's quarters, obviously you don't get traveling, and you pay for your housing, which is 15,000 or 20,000, depending on if you get a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom or the flat.
All right, thank you, Dr. Duncan. So guys, if you have any question, I see Kinsasha had her hand up first. So Kinsasha.
Hello, good night, everyone. Thanks, Dr. Early, for explaining to us about SAF, but I have a quick question. A while ago, I noticed that you actually said if you take doctor's quarters, that means it's not required, right?
No, it's not mandatory.
Okay, great. And about the pay, what is that your normal pay after tax? What would you put as an average?
Okay, so unfortunately, I was in the group that started January, so we were paying taxes out the gate. After taxes, it depends on how much. Obviously, the more you earn, the more taxes you pay. My salary since I've been doing internship, the least I've gotten is $125, which was the first month we started. So the most I've gotten after tax, I would say, was like, I think 400 and something. And that was working, I think I did about 17 duties that month. And those were a lot of weekday duties. For ONG, you're required to work the full weekend. So you work the Saturday and the Sunday for each. So if you're on that weekend, some of the interns know just this last month before they got some help, they were doing 1 and 2s. So it just all depends on how many interns you have on your firm. The least I've ever gotten is like 6 duties on surgery for the whole month, because we had like 10 interns at the time. But there are always persons who give up their calls. There are always persons who don't really want to do the calls. So I was still able to get calls from surgery as well as to cover medicine, because I'd already done medicine. So really and truly, if you want to make the money, you can, but you just have to know that it's sacrificing sleep, it's sacrificing free time at home and stuff. But the most, as I said, I've gotten is 400 and something, and that's after rent and not getting traveling.
Thanks, Doc.
Thank you for your question. I saw Ajay has his hand up. I'm not sure if he's still here. Ajay?
Oh, and to add to that, I don't know how, I'm just trying not to be mean about it. So, or he mentioned that, you know, there are other hospitals that you might get referrals from. Ours is Lucy. So we will get referrals from Lucy. And just know if you're on pediatrics or obstetrics, when you are getting a transfer from Lucy, just know that it's, well, we say it's crosses, but you know, I know that's mean, but just know it's not something nice. So prepare yourself. If you're working here, you're on pediatrics, you know, you're getting that transfer from Lucy, if you are going anywhere, just wait on them or go sleep until they come, because when that baby come, you're gonna have to redo everything. You're gonna have to screen this baby. You're gonna have to do so many things. If it's an ONG patient, just know say you're going to surgery. No matter what you do, the patient is still going to have to go to surgery for some reason.
Thank you.
And you do get to do procedures. Sorry, you do get to assist. Yeah, so you do get to assist in surgery. So if you're on call for ONG, during the week, you cover maternity and A&E. And A&E encompasses those patients who come in with ectopics or any malignancies or any bleed and stuff, gynae bleeds. And most of the times you have to go to surgery. Well, you have to go to surgery for the ectopics. Most of them are ruptured, or the emergency sections that you have to do in the nights. So you and your MO or you and your SHO are the only persons there. So you assist in every surgery when you are on ONG if you're on call. So you get a lot of experience in OT. And they let you, I mean, you can close, I mean, depending on how competent they think you are at the end. That's it.
Thank you, Dr. Duncan. I'm not sure if you can answer to this, but do you know about accommodation at the Cornwall Regional Hospital?
I think I was told that they do have accommodation, but I wouldn't be able to speak on how much it is and how well no, I think where they had accommodations is where they moved the wards to now. So I don't think they have accommodations there, to my knowledge. Honestly, I don't know a lot about Cornwall Regional because we don't really do anything much with them except to all our specialist cases go there.
Okay. Thank you again, Dr. Riley, for coming out tonight and sharing your experience with us. And with that, we move on to the final health region, which is the Southeastern Regional Health Authority. For this region, we have two presenters, Dr. Small and Dr. Perry, but we'll allow Dr. Perry to go first and then Dr. Small afterwards. So Dr. Perry, the floor is yours.
All right, good night, everybody. I don't know if you can hear me because I had to do some, I'm not actually like in the app, so yeah.
We can hear you.
I can't see messages and I'm just going to go off what I have here. And if you have any questions, you can just turn on the mic and ask me a question. All right, so basically KSA, the structure is that you do 1 year of internship, as you know. 6 months you spend at KPH, you do medicine and you do surgery during 6 months. You spend 3 months at Bustamante, you spend 3 months at Victoria Jubilee. The way how it's structured is you have to do the 6 months at KPH together, and then the 6 months of PEDS and OBS are together as well. So if you start on PEDS, you do OBS after. If you start on medicine, you do surgery after, and vice versa. So in regards to your role as an intern at each hospital, so I am currently on medicine. I've done pediatrics and I've done OBS already, so I can speak on 3 of those. And I had some persons send in just comments and anything that they wanted to share with you. But on pediatrics at Bustamante, they're very, very careful with the kids. So you have a lot of guidance on pediatrics. The residents are very helpful. If you're not experienced with certain procedures, they will guide you, but they're expecting you to be experienced as well. So while you're on your rotations, it's good for you to try at least to get some experience. I know that it's kind of difficult because of the whole COVID situation, but try to get as much experience as you can, especially with accesses. You'll be the first person that they call to put in an access. You'll be the first person that they call to do a sepsis screen. And yeah, just try to get as much experience as you can now. And even if you aren't experienced and you already finished pediatrics, don't worry. When you go, if they ask you to do anything that you're not comfortable with, just voice your concerns and they'll help you, because they're very, well, the ones that I've worked with, they're very good people and they help us with almost everything. So that's pediatrics. Your role as an intern at Victoria Jubilee Hospital is very different in comparison to pediatrics. So how you'd have a lot of guidance on pediatrics, and at Victoria Jubilee, you don't really have that amount of guidance. And so it's really you, and you're thrown into it, and you just have to. And they're going to call you for everything as the intern. They're going to call you for high BPs. They're going to call you for patients having seizures. They're going to call you for everything, and you're going to have to be the first responder. You're going to have to act on if the patient is seizing, what you're going to do. And you can call the seniors. They will answer sometimes, but if I'm being honest, they don't answer all the time. And so you have to be very prepared for Victoria Jubilee. But I would say overall it's a good experience, and you have some guidance, but you have to be ready for Jubilee. On medicine, your role is kind of similar, or it's kind of in between both, I should say. You have good guidance here. The residents are really helpful, but it's a lot of work on medicine, so you have to pull your weight as well. It's a lot of patients, as you guys may know if you've ever been to KPH, so you have to pull your weight and you have to contribute to the team effectively and efficiently so that your days may be short and that you don't suffer. Like currently on medicine here at KPH, it's 1 in 3, meaning that you're on duty today, I'm on call tonight, tomorrow I'll be post-call, and then on Saturday I'll be pre-call, which means on Sunday I'll be on call again. So it's a quick turnover. And so you have to be efficient. You have to see the patients and see them fast. You have to make accurate assessments so that you don't have a lot of patients on the ward and that a lot of patients can leave on time with good assessments, with good patient care. And yeah, so you don't have an overflowing ward. Right. And then surgery, it's very similar to medicine, but I was told that on surgery as well, they expect you to be experienced, but they're not going to ask you to chop a foot if you haven't chopped a foot before, if you haven't cut a foot or anything like that. It's not going to force you to do it, but they will ask you to do it and they'll guide you at first, but after a while, they're going to have to do it on your own. And so it's a quick learning process on surgery. So everybody wants to know about the money. And a part of internship is making money. And as much as we all want to do that program, save lives and all of that, we also want to make good money. So at KPH, and this is the thing, so at KPH, while you're at KPH for the 6 months, on medicine, and it really depends on when you start. So if you're starting in July, you're not going to be taxed until you meet that threshold. I think the threshold is $1.5 million. And while you're working on a KPH, whether it's medicine or surgery, I'd say the average money that you will make without tax is anywhere from $300,000 to $450,000, depending on the specialty that you're at. On orthopedics, I know somebody that was on orthopedics that made $380,000 a month. So you can make good money without tax. But once the money is being taxed, you're going to lose some money. The tax is 25% income tax, I think. So yeah, you're going to lose a lot of money, but the average with tax on medicine and surgery is anywhere between $250,000 and up to about $300,000, in between that region. On pediatrics and as the surgery, you do less duties. On pediatrics, I did on average 3 to 4 duties a month, and not that you really want to do more than that, if I'm being honest, but you do 3 to 4 duties a month, and so you're going to be making less money. Without tax at PEDS, I was making maybe $220, $230, and I'm going to be taxed this January, so I guess I'll find out how much that's going to cost. But yeah, so with tax, you're expecting obviously less, and I guess you guys can make your own deductions, 25% of 220, and then just minus it. So you're losing money, but I would say some people say that it's better to start on medicine and surgery because you make the bulk of the money at the first part of internship without tax, but eventually you want to be taxed. And yeah, but in terms of KPH, the benefits, you get a location incentive for being at KPH and at Victoria Jubilee. I think, I'm not 100% sure of the value of the location incentive, but it's over $10,000. You get a meal allowance while you're here. I think that's about $5,000 to $6,000, and you get traveling as well. And it's the same traveling that everybody gets. It's not. Oh, somebody's calling me. Okay. But yeah, it's not the. Yeah, it's the same traveling that everybody gets. What was I saying? So, right. While you're at KPH as well, you get free lunch. Lunch is provided. You get breakfast as well, and while you're on duty, you get supper. So that's less money out of your pocket if you're going to eat the food, and it's pretty decent food if I'm being honest. So I find myself not spending as much money on food, while in comparison to being at another hospital, having to use my own money to spend on food while I'm working. I want to save as much money as I can. So there's that. Right. So what makes Kingston different? Kingston region. You guys may know that it's a lot of work, and I feel like anywhere that you go for internship is going to be a lot of work. But it's the largest hospital. KPH is the largest hospital in the country. You're going to see the bulk of the patients in the island. You're going to have a lot of patients on the wards. You're going to have a lot of admissions on duty. That's just a given. Right now, I'm on duty, and we already have 17 admissions, and it's not even 7 o'clock. So, yeah, it's a lot of admissions, but once you have a good team and you work efficiently, it won't be as bad as you think. And your calls may not be as good as other persons at other hospitals, but at the same time, you're having a lot of hands-on experience. You're learning a lot while you're here because you're seeing different pathologies. And overall, I would say that even though it's a lot of work so far, I've been having a good learning experience. And I feel like you learn more on the job as a student. So in terms of COVID, you are provided with a mask at work, a surgical mask. You're supposed to be fitted, and I've been working for 7 months now, and I haven't been fitted yet. So you can make your own, conclusion from that. But you're not the policy here is that you're not supposed to resuscitate patients once you're not fitted. So not a lot of resuscitations have been happening at the hospital, but you're supposed to be fitted at some point, whenever that may be. But you wear a surgical mask. You see your patients. The patients are supposed to have a mask when you see them. You wash your hands. You sanitize. Regular COVID protocols. Will you be exposed to COVID patients? No, you won't be. There's a COVID ward, and you're not supposed to be exposed to COVID patients. But as you know, COVID is something that you may not detect by symptoms, and something that, patient may be asymptomatic, and you have to just prove that they have COVID. So at the end of the day, you're really interacting with anybody, and they could have COVID. So, you make your necessary things in place. You wash your hands after you see each patient. You put on your mask, and just try to be safe. And once you are having symptoms, then they have a risk assessment form that they'll ask you to sign. If you're high risk, then they place you in quarantine. You'd have to do the swab, and then I think even if you're negative, you have to stay in quarantine a little while, and then once you're positive, you stay out until you have negative test. And I think, there's one more thing. So if you're an international student, I was told that just to inform you guys that you need to sort out a CSME. I am not familiar with what exactly you have to do to get that, but you have to get that in time to start working. We had a lot of people starting in July that they had to wait a little while to start working because they didn't have the CSME. And finally, my last piece of advice to you guys is to pick something that suits your best interest. Don't go to a hospital because your friend is going to a hospital. Don't go because you hear say, they're making a lot of money or whatever. At the end of the day, you need to pick what best suits you. If you want to make a lot of money, then you're going to hear the hospitals to go to make that amount of money with the duties that you can get. And but at the end of the day, choose whatever best suits your situation. I hope you guys make a good decision about where you want to do internship. I feel like there's a lot of bad stigma around KPH and choosing to work at KPH. And yes, it's a lot of work at the end of the day, but anywhere you go, anywhere you choose to go to internship, you're going to do a lot of work. And that's just a given because you are an intern. So we made the best decision for you, and I wish you guys success in MBBS. I hope that you all become doctors. And thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Perry. We have a couple of questions for you. Is accommodation provided on the hospital, the living compound, but at TPH?
Okay, no, hospital doesn't provide accommodation while you're, wait, did you say on duty?
No, in general.
Just in general? No, they don't provide accommodation. While you're on duty, they provide accommodation for the night, but not in general.
Okay, thank you. I see Jay Brown has their hand up. Jay Brown.
Hi, Dr. Perry. In terms of your work hours, like what time you usually have to reach the hospital and what time you usually leave, whether it's post call or just a normal working day, estimated?
Okay. While I was on pediatrics, they were okay with you reaching at 8 o'clock at 8:15. But if you want a great assessment, I'd say try to go to work early. They do notice when you go to work early. While you're on medicine and surgery, you're kind of forced to come earlier because the parking situation at KPH isn't the greatest. So I usually reach here by like 7:30 just to get good parking. But the residents aren't really that strict when it comes to getting here on time for medicine and at Victoria Jubilee. I know that on surgery, you have early ward run, so you have to come a little bit earlier than normal. Some surgery interns come as early as 6 o'clock or earlier. So that's surgery. But everywhere else, it's kind of flexible. You can come 8, you can come 7:30. As long as the work is done and you're prepared for ward runs, they really don't mind.
Yeah, and what time you leave? You usually leave from the hospital?
Oh, okay. So at Victoria Jubilee, there were days. Okay, so the way how it was structured then, we were kind of forced to leave late because we have some days where we have clinic, and it was just a heavy workload because of COVID. They had to divide the teams into. So some days we left like 6, 7, but that was because of the situation then. The interns at Jubilee now leave as early as 2, as long as it's at regular work day and they're not divided into teams. You can leave at 2, 3, 4, but normally you get to leave before 4 o'clock. On medicine, if you have a good team with a decent amount of interns, you can leave before 4. There's some days on medicine where I've left before 4, but if, like, for example, my current intern situation, I only have 2 interns on my firm. So some days we're kind of forced to leave a bit later than normal. But I've never been here on medicine. So that's good. On surgery, I know that surgery interns, they tend to leave about the same time as medicine interns. And P's normally don't leave until 4. Even if the work is done, you don't leave until 4 because the residents kind of keep you there. So yeah, that's that.
And sorry, one more question. And post call, what time you normally leave?
Whenever the work is done.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
So if the work done 5 p.m., the work done 5 p.m. That's just yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for your questions. Are there any other questions? 5 seconds. If not, then we'll move on to our final speaker for tonight, Dr. Small. Dr. Small, who's yours?
Hi, good evening again, everyone. I'm Dr. Small. For those who joined a bit late, I'm currently a senior house officer at the University Hospital of the West Indies, currently in pathology. So I'll be doing a bit different from how the others spoke. Well, when I first was invited to this, I thought it was for the persons who were just finishing MBBS. So my talk was more geared towards them, but I'll still give it to you. And we could talk a bit about the UE experience after. So for internship experience, the best way I could break it down in a nutshell is with the words of the great King Leonidas, who said, "Ready your breakfast and eat hearty, because tonight we dine in hell." And that's basically what internship is. It's going to be the hardest year of your life. MBBS is not prepared to be an intern, despite what they all say. They will tell you, oh, you need to do well in exams to be a good intern. Being a good intern doesn't have anything to do with doing well in doing well and passing an exam. You need to be organized, you need to be on time, you need to know how to interact with patients appropriately, how to work as a team, very important how to work as a team, because it's not just you and other doctors, you have to work with nurses and other members of staff. And it really is a team approach to healthcare when it is you're working at a hospital setting. Now, one thing I want to talk about is being a foreign doctor. So I'm from Trinidad. So because of that, to work in Jamaica, I had to get what's called a CSME. There's a CARICOM CSME, which is basically a work permit. Now, to get that, I had to go get a police report first here in Jamaica. Then I had to go to the Ministry of Labor office, which is not too far from KPH Hospital downtown. And there you apply for your permit. I think it takes like 8 weeks, but I had some issues with mine. They were changing the CSME and then they ran out of paper for months. And I was actually working for 3 months without a permit. I don't think anyone's doing that anymore, but because of that special circumstance, I think they allowed it. So once you have that permit, you go to the immigration office so that you get an unconditional landing stamp. For most of us international students, when we came to UE, we'd have gotten a student stamp. That normally expires like 6 months after you're supposed to graduate. So once that expires, you're technically in the country illegally. Or you could leave the country every 6 months. That's still illegal, but they're going to ask you, they'll question you every time you come back to immigration. So you need this to work, and the places aren't allowing you to work now, at least from what I heard with this group. They're not allowing you to work unless you have that work permit. If you are not from a CARICOM country, then you'll have to apply for a regular work permit. I'm not entirely sure what that process is, but I know you still have to get a police report. So that's being a foreign national, a foreigner to Jamaica. Now, for regular internship experience, what my advice would be is to take 1 day at a time. It's a lot. Some days are going to be easier than others. Some days are just going to be from hell, but take it 1 day at a time. Don't take stress from one day into the other. Try to come up with forms of relaxation, whether it be exercise, meditation, watching Netflix, something to help you de-stress at the end of the day so that you don't keep adding stress into the next day. Because sometimes you have to end up working for days straight without a day off. And if it is you keep adding stress onto the next day, you're going to burn yourself out very quickly. The other thing is you have seniors for a reason. Do not be afraid to ask for help. You're not going to know everything. Even though they're going to make you feel, some will make you feel as though you're past MBBS, you should know how to do this. You're not going to know how to do everything. So ask for help, ask for guidance. Some of these, sometimes you have to do a procedure on a patient that could cause significant, not necessarily mortality, but morbidity to the patient. Because sometimes it might just be pain. If it is you have to keep doing an arterial stick and you're still not getting through, it's each time you stick that patient, that's pain for that patient. So if it is you're not getting through, ask for help, whether it be another intern or whether it be a MO or SHO resident. Next is to stay safe. Now we have COVID, but even without COVID, important to be safe. Remember to wear your appropriate PPE, wear your gloves, try to avoid recapping needles, even though we all do it. Learn how to store things appropriately. Try not to contaminate your things that you use, like your stethoscope, or a lot of us walk around clipboards. That could be transferring infection from one patient to another, especially with some of these hospital-acquired infections. What you'll notice is once one patient on the ward gets it, several other patients get it, and it's very difficult to control. Now for COVID in particular, well, it's been a stress on everyone. Regular precautions is wear a face mask. If it is you have to be seeing patient respiratory symptoms, the recommendation is you wear N95 mask, or you make sure it's in a ventilated area. Depending on different hospitals, there's different regulations. So at UWI, we have a specific team that will see patients who are suspected of having COVID. We have a specific isolation ward. So we have a COVID ward. So I'm not sure what they call it, but it's a ward that if it is the patient is suspected of COVID or they're waiting a COVID test, that's the ward they go on. And then you have your general wards. So at UWI, you won't be, as an intern, you won't be seeing any patient who comes in the hospital suspected of COVID. That doesn't mean a patient on the ward can't end up having COVID. Because time I had to be quarantined, we had a patient on the ward for 3 days before we found out they had COVID, and then I earned my 2 weeks home. So stay safe. You will make mistakes. What's important that you learn from them and you move on. You're not going to get everything right off the bat. Internship is still a learning period. Try your best to learn from your mistakes, not to make them again, and just keep focusing on improving and bettering yourself, whether it be a procedure, whether it be taking history, whatever you find the deficiencies are, just try to work on it over time, and they will improve. You will feel overwhelmed, and sometimes you will feel like giving up. This could happen especially after long calls. I remember the worst call I ever had. I had to work for 3 days straight. So it was Saturday, Sunday, straight into Monday, and I didn't leave until 8 o'clock that night. That was the worst experience of my life. I felt like giving up. I was so tired because I had to go home, sleep, and then come back to work the next day. So you won't always get rotations like that. It usually happens in the surgical ones, but at least at UWI for medicine, obs and gynae and peds, it's not that often that you're going to be working for 3 days straight. There'll be times, depending on your senior, they will put you down, but remind yourself, they were interns once, and they probably make the same mistakes as you did. And what's important to remember, they are the ones that are responsible for guiding you. You're an intern, you're still learning. Don't let anybody put you down, especially I notice a lot of them are doing now is they're putting down the interns because they didn't have to pass MBBS. The exam was online, it's not a real exam. That's nonsense. The fact that you survived 5 years of medical school to make it to MBBS means you're good enough to be a doctor. Having to write one exam is not going to be the difference between being a good doctor and being a poor doctor. And like I said, MBBS doesn't truly prepare you to be an intern. Every day is a learning experience. Try to see what you can learn, and not just learn as in knowledge, but learn as in physical experience. So you see a procedure that's never been done before. At UWI, you don't always get that much hands-on experience as with other hospitals. So you really have to be pushy, but often you have, because we're patient low, you don't always get to assist residents and stuff like that with procedures. There's certain things they'll expect you to do. They'll expect you to do taps. They might want you to put in like a Steinman pin, but things like chest tubes, things are normally done in A&E. Most likely a resident will be doing that. But you can still go to observe. And if it is they're comfortable enough, you can assist and even do one. Comfortable shoes is probably one of the most important pieces of advice you could get as an intern, for an intern. Because I remember my first week, I swore I was going to have to get amputations because that's how bad my feet hurt. So even if you don't have a good pair of shoes and you can't afford one before internship, as soon as that first paycheck hits your salary, invest in a proper or even multiple proper pairs of shoes, because it's a lot of standing. Some days from when you reach to work 8 in the morning till at night, you will be on your feet. If you do get to eat, you'll be eating on your feet. You often have days like that. And as a next important point, learn where a place that you can go to get a quick snack. So often you don't get a proper lunch. Your lunch is literally might be walking from one ward to another while eating a patty or a bun and cheese or drinking something. Learn a place where you get a quick snack if you can't walk with one yourself. Respect is very important as a doctor. Not just your patient respecting you, but you respecting others. Whether it be the patient, whether it be the consultant, whether it be a nurse, whether it be a janitor. Because all these people are important aspects of running a hospital. And if it is you're not having respect for your patients, you're not having respect for janitors, people will notice and it will reflect on how people see you. Confidentiality is very important. I haven't seen this as a big issue, but I know it's something that we often have to remind each other, especially when we get together in small groups and we might be talking. We might be talking about patients. Always remember people can overhear us. Help others. You might be more proficient in a certain task than somebody else, or they might be more proficient than you. You can teach each other and help them out. Oftentimes, you might be on a firm where you have 30 patients. Our next person might be on a firm and have 5 patients. If it is you have time, help out the other intern. I remember at one point in time in orthopedics, my firm had 28 patients and I was the only intern. The other 2 firms had 2 and 1 patient respectively. I don't know what happened at that point in time, but every time my team was on, we just had a number of patients. And orthopedics is one of those specialties where it could either be 0 or 100. That was the first duty that I actually slept. And I remember going to sleep at 12 o'clock and waking up at 4 o'clock, frantically thought my phone died and everyone was trying to call me. I rushed out to the ward and nothing was going on. But then you have other specialties where sleep is non-existent. Next important aspect is your own personal mental and physical health. Try to see if you can get in some form of exercise. Watch how you eat. I said earlier that sometimes your lunch might be a bun and cheese or a patty, and many days it is that. As we all know, that's not healthy. And even though we think we're young and fit, after a while it will affect us in the long run. So try your best to try to find time to exercise, see how balanced a diet you can get. And your mental health is an important aspect. A lot of studies and work is being done now into burnout and physician mental health. And it's showing that a lot of physicians are suffering in silence. So it's important to look at that aspect. If it is you think that you need to talk to somebody, find somebody to talk to, whether it be a friend or whether it be someone professional. Another important aspect is learn about money management. I heard a lot of people talking about making money. It does not matter how much money you make. If you spend money poorly, you'll always not have money. So learn how to manage money, whether you have friends or family who are into finance and budgeting. If it is you don't know about it yourself, you can ask them for advice. If it is you know how to budget and you can do one appropriately, then sit down, find some time and budget out your money. And the strategy that I use for budgeting money, I do not add my duties to my basic expenditures. So because something might happen and a month you might have to work, it's unlikely, but what if 1 month you have to work and make no duty money? That would be a problem because then you'd be in a deficit. So if it is your basic salary could cover your basic expenses and everything you work after that for duty will just be extra money, you'd be at an advantage. Look early to identify a career path and plan your next step. So yes, you try to get through internship. As I said, internship is a rough experience and the goal is really to survive that 1 year. But after that, what's your next plan? In Jamaica, you have to do SHO. SHO is 1 year. It's 3-4 month blocks. You have to do 1 block in primary care. So you work at a health center. I'm not sure how it is at other places, but at UE, how it works. You choose 1 4-month block and then they put you in another 4-month block depending on the needs of the hospital. So because of COVID, the 2 places they needed people was medicine and occupational health. So I'm very happy that I did not get medicine. I got occupational health. It's a specialty that doesn't have any duties though, so I will be making less money than my counterparts. But I feel like now is not a good time to be on medicine. I'm not really interested in medicine in the first place. So you want to decide what specialty you want to go into so you could know, you want to start making good impressions on the people who will write you recommendations. Because a lot of your application is who recommends you. So that's generally my tips. Now for UE overall experience, compared to other places, we don't work that many duties. You can if it is you're taking other people's duties. Now, the number of duties depends on the specialty that you're on. When you're on surgery, if you're assigned to general surgery, you have about 6 to 8 duties a month. If it is you're on one of these subspecialties, you could have as much as 15 duties. Now, one advantage of one of these subspecialties in surgery is that you don't always have to be on the ward. So if you get something like urology or cardiothoracic surgery, unless something going on with one of the patients on the wards or a patient comes in an emergency, you don't really have to be there and you could actually be home and make money as opposed to everything else. For medicine, usually about 6 to 8 duties as well. Medicine is one of the tougher specialties where you don't really have nights off. You don't really get to sleep at night. The one duty on medicine I ever got to sleep was the one duty I was exposed to COVID. So that's medicine. For pediatrics. Pediatrics has been changing a lot, especially due to COVID. It used to be one intern all night to cover everything. Not sure how that one intern used to manage, but when we had dengue outbreaks, it increased to 2, then increased to 3. Then we had COVID, and now the team is split into 2. You have infectious and non-infectious. The non-infectious team is 2 people. Infectious team, I think it's 1 person that's on duty. For obstetrics and gynae at UHWI is generally lighter than other hospitals. You basically, for all specialties, you basically manage the patients on the wards. If any patient comes in, has to be seen at A&E first before it's referred to another specialty. And when it's referred to another specialty, the residents will be ones to go see them. It's unusual for you to be the first person to go to see a patient, but it can happen. One of the things, it's usually you're the only person responsible for managing the wards. And if anything happens on the ward and you're not there to respond quickly, then you'd be in trouble. So that's generally it. Obs and gynae is about, it's normally less duties, probably about 5 or 6 duties you get. But as with others, if it is the patients are giving up duties, you're free to take their duties. Depending on the specialty you're in, if it is you've done that duty already, then you could take those duties from somebody else. Sorry, if you've done a specialty already and you moved on, and there's somebody on a specialty that wants to give up their duty, you can take it. Except for pediatrics. Pediatrics is not allowed that. Medicine said they had a problem with it, but I see that they're still doing it. I don't know if that changed recently. But I think that's a UE experience in a nutshell. Going to Dr. Bruce, is the premier health institution in the region. You see they have some of the best consultants there. You really do learn a lot, and you learn what's best practice, which is what I like, especially if it is just somebody who's planning to go away to further your studying. You'd want to know what's the latest that's there. There are lots of academic sessions. And as an intern, you're often invited to these academic sessions as well. And again, this is where they train persons. So if it is you want to get recommendations, I think the best doctors to get are the ones that are going to be training you or possibly even interviewing you for that program. So that's another good thing about UHWI. One of the downsides that I think it's that, especially if you want to do something like a surgical specialty, you don't really have that much hands-on experience. You're not going to get called to A&E to be put in chest tubes. The one chest tube I assisted in was because we had to remove a chest tube for a patient on the ward to put in a new one. Yeah, those hands-on thing, you don't often get called to OT on duty because you're the only intern around, and if something happens on the ward, it's going to be difficult for you to leave OT to go to the ward to see about that patient. But during the day, they have surgeries and you have the time, you could go to OT. So that's it for me. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Dr. Small. There's no question, but I see Dr. Campbell want to add a little to the experience of UE. So she can go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Good night. Sorry if my background is really noisy. I'm actually on duty. So I just wanted to add, in terms of the COVID experience at UA, now, some of the departments are on what we call a COVID rota. So, for example, for obs and gynae, you may only work 15 days for the month. For surgery, they were previously splitting the teams in two to reduce exposure. So you'd work 6 days on, 6 days off, or 4 days on, 4 days off. But no, everyone is coming every day. Everything Dr. Small said, I'm in 100% agreement with. I'd only want to add the clinic experience, which I don't think other hospitals really give you that experience, which you get at UE. So on obs and gynae, you go to every single clinic as an intern. You go to postnatal clinic and it's pretty much intern run. You see the mother and now you start to see the babies as well because the peds residents no longer come. So you are assessing them completely. You may have one senior there who you can discuss it with, but I find that to be very hands-on, a good experience. You also go to the antenatal clinic and gynae clinic. As an intern, you see your own patients just as how the residents see their own patients. On medicine, you don't go to clinic, but on surgery, you do. I'm currently on plastic surgery, and I go to plastic surgery clinic. When you're on call for plastic surgery, like I am today, you are first call, and you can be called to A&E to see patients. I was on call on Sunday, and I got called to see a patient with maggots in their head, and I had to clerk them, take them out, come up with a plan, and call my senior. So I find that a lot of people assume that at UA it's not, you don't get a lot of hands-on and you don't get a lot of experience, but I find that it's what you make it. If you decide that you want to just take bloods and documents and be a secretary, they'll let you do exactly that. But if you show them that you want to do more than that and you are knowledgeable, they are willing to guide you and really allow you to do more and learn more. As Dr. Small had said, it's a really good place for postgraduate prep in terms of teaching and the academic sessions that we participate in. Also, as it pertains to transfers from other hospitals, we get from Maypen, we get from Mandeville, everything that they can't manage, we manage. So you see the weird and wonderful up here, as you know from medical school. And the last thing, I know this class had a concern with PPE. So as the intern rep, I can confidently say that we do not get PPE at most hospitals. You might get a surgical mask. Most interns are not fit tested, and gowns are rare. So it's just interesting the things you guys are fighting for your final year class. Most interns do not have access to. Most of us you see with KN95s or N95s walking around, we purchased it ourselves to protect ourselves. That's pretty much it. I hope you guys had a good session and we're all available to answer any questions you may have. Oh, that's nice, Dr. Shim. That's lovely that you have that Spanish tone. It's not available here.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell, for your addition. So guys, we are coming down to the final moments. Do we have any final questions? From the doc, there are some general questions for the JMDA, but I'd like to know if anybody have any final questions before I go through those. No, no one. So for any member of the JMDA executive and even the doctors that we still have here, Dr. Kin, Dr. Forgive me if I forget, Dr. Riley. The question is, has the Ministry of Health and the JMDA entered talks over additional benefit for interns, for example, in terms of subsidized health insurance? If any of you can speak to that.
All right, so Good evening, everyone. Again, Dr. Kazara, Secretary for JMDA. I will defer most of the questions to our interns rep, Dr. Campbell, also Dr. Shim as a SHO rep. I'll give them first choice over answering questions, but maybe I'm the best place to answer this one specifically, especially in regards to insurance. So for context, the situation with doctors getting insurance in Jamaica is one that has been complex historically. And there are many reasons for that. I can't necessarily go into that right now. What I can tell you is that presently it is not automatically applied, and I don't think that that will be the case going forward. Once you become a doctor, you have to choose which insurance package you want to pick up. I can tell you that as it stands right now, many of the doctors aren't necessarily happy with the insurance packages that we have in place. What we have tried to do over the last few months is we've tried to see if we can switch over to what is a better package. One that's more affordable and offers, in our minds, better coverage. We've currently put this proposal forward to the Ministry of Finance, because it's actually Ministry of Finance, not really so much Ministry of Health, but this is really more a financial issue because it all comes down to insurance being paid. So we've actually put it forward to Ministry of Finance, and as well we put it forward to Sagicor, as they are the one that are offering a package that our membership feels is most beneficial. As it stands, they're still reviewing it and they haven't necessarily got back to us. We're still following up on that matter, and we're hoping that we can get some official correspondence as to whether or not they will allow this to occur. And hopefully this can happen before most of you start internship in July. And at that point in time, as soon as you guys start internship, I'd encourage all of you to try and sign on to the insurance package, provided that it comes through. So that is the update there. I hope I've addressed that question sufficiently. If not, you guys can ask me any specific question, read that.
Thank you, Dr. Kazara. Another question is, are interns eligible for maternity leave? Dr. Shim, that was a response to the maternity leave question. So,
that's actually something I'd have to check, because I know that intern at the Spanish Town Hospital who went into internship pregnant, and as far as I know, she was still able to work. I think she just started a month behind everyone else, but I'll just confirm.
No, but based on the contract, right, you're not actually granted maternity leave. What you can do is that you can pause your contract.
Okay.
So you won't be getting paid leave.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you. The other question that was posted in the chat, sorry, is it that if students would like to delay their internship after
Pardon?
Okay, so hello, it appears Omar has been disconnected. That's the impression I have. I don't hear anything from him at this point. So, hold on, I think he's come back now. So hopefully he will rejoin us in a minute.
Okay, I'm back now. I did not realize that my laptop dropped the Wi-Fi. Did you hear the question?
No, Omar, could you repeat that for us, please?
Oh, so the question was, in the event that a student would like to defer their internship, how long can they defer it for?
As far as I'm aware, internship can be deferred for 6 months based on persons that I know that have gone that route. I'm not sure as to what the timeline is after that.
Okay, thank you. I'm not seeing any other questions here. There was a question posted somewhere regarding the pay for persons who decide to do intern at UE. How does that work out?
Well, the pay is the same as all hospitals. It's just the number of duties. Overall, I believe that you work less duties at UE. Of course, you're still able to take up duties from other places. So for surgery, for general surgery, at least about 6 to 8. Medicine's normally around 7, 8 duties. Obs and gynae is a little bit less, 5 to 6. And peds, well, peds keeps changing up because when it was just one intern on call, you'd only have about 2 duties for the entire month. But now that it's more, you're having about 5, 6 duties a month.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Small. There's a question in the chat. Do we have to work on Saturdays at UE? Well, UHWI.
So it depends on your specialty. So for surgery, you to work one weekend, whether it's Saturday or Sunday, and in my time, you weren't paid for it. In medicine, you work, some medicine works, you get 1 day off. And usually, at least I prefer taking it as a weekday, just in case I had anything to do. And also we get paid for working on Saturday and Sunday. It's only up until 12 o'clock, even though they're usually there longer. For obs and gynae, you don't usually work weekends unless you're on call. And for pediatrics, well, because when I started pediatrics was when COVID was in full swing, a lot of things switched up. So I'm not exactly sure how peds doing weekends now.
Thank you, Dr. Small. So I see Dr. Shim responds to the question, how early should work permit be applied for international students? That's as soon as possible. And yes, guys,
possible, because you never know what could happen, especially now with COVID. You don't know if a department might close down. It usually takes about 2 months, 2 or 3 months, I think, for everything to go through regularly. But for my case, they had some problems where they were changing the template to the certificate, and then they ran out of paper. And I don't know how it takes weeks to get new paper, but apply early because you never know what could happen.
Also to add to that, persons who are from St. Kitts and Nevis, apparently there is some arrangement between their government and the UE hospital, which seems to be very disorganized. So what happened this year in particular is that UE is supposed to pay the interns their duty pay, but their government is supposed to pay their base pay. And for the first 3 months, they didn't get anything. So if they're persons from St. Kitts and Nevis, I suggest you start engaging your government from now so that when you guys start internship, all those things are in place so you get paid immediately.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell, for that important notice for us as Saints countries. All right, guys, I see no other questions and no other person have their hands raised. So at this point, I allow our panelists to leave us with some very encouraging words, and for the doctors that remain. So we can, I see one hand raised. Yes, Mayor. Hope I pronounced your name right.
Hello, good night. Some of us wanted to hear from Spanish Town.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay. Go, Dr. Ship.
I can speak on Spanish Town Hospital's behalf, if you guys would allow.
Yes.
All right, so I'll just keep it short. I would say that Spanish Town Hospital is a good mix between having the experience of KPH while having still academic sessions of university hospital. I will say that there are situations to every hospital that are unique, At Spanish Town Hospital, we truly don't have a PPE problem. There are PPE shortages, but every staff has their own stash. And then of course, our SMO ensures that all the doctors are provided with same, right? As it relates to the rotations, at Spanish Town Hospital, I would say that your experience is going to be dependent on the team that you're a part of. So for medicine, we have several medicine wards, 2 female, 2 male, and 1 mixed ward, as well as an adjunct ward, which has now been converted to a COVID ward, right? What happens is that per team, at least 3 interns are on duty every night, and that's because of the amount of volume of patients that are on each ward, which can be upwards of 30. You are not assigned to work in accident and emergency while on medicine. However, depending on the team you are on, you may be asked to go into accident and emergency and assist. You're really supposed to be, as the intern, take on the admissions toward coming into the ward, as well as alleviate any emergencies that are happening on the ward, right? As many doctors before had mentioned, you have to establish a working relationship with the nurses, because if not, you'll be called for very, very, very unnecessary things. So you have to establish that in advance. And I guess, for lack of a better expression, just don't make anybody take advantage of you. You have your own rules, as well as the nurses have their own rules, and it's best to reinforce that early while being respectful. As it relates to surgery, of course, we all know there's an infamous team at Spanish Town Hospital. I will not call the name, but if it is that you do get to be a part of that team, please consider yourself a nursing staff. You are responsible for charting urine. You have to come to ward rounds extremely early. Clark, I've seen other interns there from as early as 6 a.m., leaving the hospital as late as 8 p.m. as well. So be mindful of that. The other teams, we tend to be very amicable towards one another. You have to work in accident and emergency. You have to see a patient, as well as the MO has to see a patient. And yes, you do, because it's only one general surgery service at the hospital. You see literally everything from an amputated limb to meiosis in the breast, to facomax trauma. You see a wide range of things, and you have a lot of hands-on experience, as well as managing wards. When it comes to ONG, I would say that ONG in peak season at Spanish Town Hospital does more deliveries vaginally than any other hospital, including Jubilee in the region. So that being said, in peak season, both pediatrics and obstetrics and gynecology have a very warm time, because there's a lot of women giving birth, and poor antenatal care and so on. The duties can get extremely rough. At that time, in peak season, duties usually can be upwards of 11 for ONG for the month, and you're on duty for the 24 hours. You also have high-risk clinic, which is on Mondays, and those days tend to be extremely long, and everyone is expected, when your ward work is finished, to go down to the labor ward and assist with every patient down there until 4 o'clock is up. But most days, you do actually get to leave early, so that there's a silver lining to that. As it relates to pediatrics, once again, very seasonal with COVID. I think it's tend to be on the lighter side now, mostly because children are infectious and children aren't mingling with other children as much per se. And as a result, you have less infections going on. However, when it comes to like dengue season, for example, it can get extremely rough. And I've mentioned before, in that peak season of obs and gynae from October to about January, it tends to be very hard as well, because the nursery adjacent that works with obs and gynae is very overwhelmed during that time. Overall, Spanish Town Hospital doesn't provide living quarters for the doctors. However, you do have quarters in which you stay during your duties. Most quarters are in decent enough shape. You do get provided lunches. I would not eat the lunches, but that's a personal choice. As it relates to money, which is something that was brought up as well, it depends on how much it is that you work. on average, every intern at Spanish on Hospital works between 7 to 10 duties. We do not get a location incentive. So you're looking at earning after taxes anywhere between 260 to about 320, depending on how much it is that you've worked. I think the most I've earned is over 400, but I would never do that again. In terms of the amount of duties I had to work, it was because they were extremely short-staffed. I would never do that, but everyone has their own goals. Overall, I would say that Spanish on Hospital is a great experience. As I said, it's a great crossover between KPH, not having, you know, the people crawling up the walls like KPH does, but also not having to deal with the personalities that you would at UE Hospital either, and having more autonomy over your patients and your own learning as well. So anybody that comes to Spanish on Hospital, please do come and enjoy yourselves.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shim. And guys, if you have any further questions or want to address them to any particular hospital, you can use the link that was sent in the class group chat and also post them many times in the Zoom chat. You can leave your question there. I'll be checking it periodically and passing it on to the JMDA. So I'm sure they can find someone to help answer your questions if you have further questions. So without any further ado, would any one of our doctors here like to leave a final statement? If not, Dr. Duncan, Dr. Small, Dr. Campbell, Dr. Kazara.
Okay, I just want to wish everyone all the best going forward with your exams. I know due to COVID, it's not ideal. Having to go to school every other day or however they assign you all is a challenge because you're really not going to get the adequate opportunity to learn as much as you can. But when you are there, make the best of it as possible. When you're home, make the best of it as possible, and you will see success in your exams. So I wish you all the best.
Thank you for staying with us for the past about 2 hours. And with nothing else left to say, personally thank the JMDA for assisting us with this project. I want to thank all the doctors who took the time out of their schedules, whether coming off duty or whether being on duty, to be here and speak with us. So from the bottom of my heart, JAMSA and the class of 2021, I want to say thank you. And do enjoy your night and all the best in your exams and dissertation, guys. Bye.